Hi, hello everybody. The topic of today's discussion is anti-islanding phenomena in grid integration with relevant IEC or IEEE standard. Now, what is the root and what is the root cause of this problem that we will see? The root is the distributed generation, and the this root is going to expand day by day as the distributed generation penetration is going to increase. And what is the root cause of this is that this distributed generation technology allows the bidirectional flow of power within an electrical network. This is the root cause, and this causes many problems. Now we'll see what is the distributed generation. We'll see the different aspect of the distributed generation. The distributed generation has a different names. Different literature gave different name to this distributed generation, and whether we feel that whether they are different, but they are the same. The distributed generation is also known by distributed electric resource DER or distributed resource DR or dispersed generation DG or embedded generation, decentralized generation, dispersed storage and generation DSP, decentralized energy, distributed energy, independent power producer IPP, non-utility generator ENUG. Now, since or from these different names, you will understand the importance of this distributed generation also. Now, the distributed generation are classified or can be classified in two different types as a green distributed generation and a conventional distributed generation depending on their energy source. The conventional distributed generation burn conventional fuel like diesel, oil, gasoline or natural gas, and the green distributed generation use renewable sources to reduce reliance on a fossil fuel. This green distributed generation can be hydro, solar photovoltaic, solar thermal to steam generation, wind, biogas, methane from decomposition, biomass, direct burn or gasification, biodiesel instead of a refined diesel, tidal, storage battery, and the list goes on because many times the combination of these hybrid systems are also there. Now, the distributed generation can be classified depending on their generating capacity as micro DG, where the generation capacity varies from 20 watt to 5 kilowatt. Small distributed generation between 5 kilowatt to 5 megawatt, and medium distributed generation where the generation capacity is between 5 megawatt to 50 megawatt. The large distributed generation, the capacity for this is 50 megawatt to 300 megawatt, but these are connected to the transmission grid. As such, you should not call it as a distributed generation if you are thinking it as a connected at a distributed distribution level. Only the first three are of a concern of a today's discussion. Now, why we connect the distributed generation to grid? Because there we can also use the distributed generation in isolation mode where the distributed generation is feeding the local load, that we will say. The DG grid interconnection is a low cost and easily administered means of promoting direct customer investment in renewable energy. This is of course through a utility point of view or a government point of view. In essence, the utility is essentially storing electricity in the same manner as would a battery backup system. Means instead of generating electricity by a utility, the electricity is generated by the what do we say distributed generation sources, which are of course customer or a consumer owned entities. Now this is the DG grid integration overview. You can see here a total electric power system from generation to distribution. These are the generations having a large capacity and are connected at a transmission or sub-transmission level. And you can call them as a central station because they are not distributed. They are concentrated in a large size also. And here you have a distributed generation which consists of small photovoltaic wind and fuel cell interconnected at a distribution level. These are connected at a distribution level. Now we'll see the electrical diagram of a power system where you can see this distributed generation which is connected at a 11 kV or a 10 kV. And the point of today, our point of discussion is this distributed generation mostly. Here, the power flow direction is shown. On this side, this was the, you can say, previous direction of power flow. The power was flowing only from generation to load. And due to distributed generation, what you are able to see, the power is going to feeding in both direction from distributed generation to distribution grid, from distribution grid to transmission grid. In both direction power flow is there. And this is the main root cause of the problem. Okay. Next, how this distributed generation is tied to grid. There are two ways, either directly coupled or inverter coupled. In directly coupled, asynchronous generator or synchronous generator is there. And in inverter coupled, static conversion or rotating conversion is there. Now, a synchronous generator tie is for DFIG wind turbine or SCIG wind turbine. Synchronous generator tie is for combined heat and power plant. Static conversion, what we generally call this as an inverter, is used for PV generator or fuel cells. And rotating conversion, we connect direct drive wind turbine and micro combined heat power. Now we'll see how this distributed generation is tied electrically, what are the features of these and what are the problems of these. The general characteristics are given here, that this work as a current source, voltage source, let it be. We are not going in detail for this. For our concern is this fault current capability of this interconnection type. For inverter, you will find that the fault current capability is nearly zero, very low. It is 1.2 times a normal current. And for induction machine, it is a medium, 6 times normal current. And for synchronous machine, it is very high, 10 times normal current. And this is going to make a large difference for the distribution network where distributed generation is connected. Now, what are challenges and issues with solar PV integration that can be broadly classified as not only solar with all distributed generation, you may say, power quality, harmonics, frequency and voltage fluctuation, power fluctuation, small time power fluctuation, long time or signal power fluctuation. Actually, the small and time is due to the signal day variation or a signal variation, and this is due to a fault or internal internal situations. Storage, protection issues, optimal placement of RES, and islanding. We are concerned here with the protection issues and islanding phenomena. Non-technical issues are lack of technical skilled workers, less availability of transmission line and substation capacity to accommodate solar power. That's why nowadays only 60% of a transformer capacity is allowed for bidirectional distributed generation connection. Okay. Now what is important while connecting distributed generation to the distribution system? The interconnection of distributed generation must operate reliably and safely. Of course, this is very important. Whenever any interconnection is there, it must be reliable and issue, safety concern is there. Then this interconnection must operate without degrading electrical service to nearby customers. Everyone will expect this. This interconnection must operate without compromising utility the system integrity. We'll see these things slowly in the next slides. By far, the protection issue of most concern are in particular over voltages occurring following an high landing event. The main issue is protection issue, and why this issue is there, because there are over voltages occurring following an high landing event. And what is this high landing event? Now we will see. Island, you can call it as isolated power system. And when we say isolated, in today's COVID situation or COVID days, isolated means you know it is a quarantine or isolated for precautionary isolation. The same thing is there. In geography, island is a land body disconnected from mainland and separated by water. We know this. Generally, many people are interested to go on island for a tour. Second, in electrical island, in electrical concern, island is a small part of electrical distribution network disconnected from main grid due to open circuit. Means when breaker opens due to any reason, either outage, fault, maintenance, whatever it may be, then island gets formed. Now, there are two types of islanding. One is intentional island, which is a planned. Second is unintentional island, which is unplanned. Our concern is with, of course, unintentional island. Anti-islanding, that is a non-islanding protection. We want to is used to avoid unintentional island, of course. And how we use this? We use the relays or controls to prevent the continued existence of unintentional island. Since it is unplanned, we want to stop the existence of this unplanned or unintentional island. Now, how unintentional island takes place, that we will see. Here you can see islanded operation of distributed generation with utility load is generally not allowed. This is not allowed. Here you can see this is utility substation. Here one distribution feeder is going, second is going, third is going, and on the third you have distributed generation supplying a load to its supplying its load. Now when this circuit breaker opens, what happens? This dotted parts becomes a highland, and This distributed generation supplies this load as well as all this load on a distribution system. And when this distributed generation is supplying load on the distribution system, you call it as an unintentional island. If DG creates a feeder island, reclosing requires synchronizing at the utility substation. Means this causes a mini problem also. What are that problems or why this unintentional island is not accepted or not allowed? That will see. But here we can see that when the circuit breaker opens, this island gets formed and this is not accepted because it is feeding load to these loads or it is feeding in the direction also. We'll see the reasons one by one. Intentional island microgrid situation at a distribution level. Now this is one more situation. This is not unintentional, this is a planned. You have a grid here, a fault takes place, or you don't consider fault also, some situations are there, and this is your distributed generation and load. You will plan the island of this. If power quality from grid is bad, you intentionally isolate yourself from main grid so that good quality power can be fed to your critical load. Also, if the outage takes place, then you intentionally island yourself. Or if the voltage amplitude is out of range from the grid, you intentionally island. These are the reasons why we intentionally island our system. There are these reasons for this. Now, we'll see distribution system with distributed generation. Here, a simple diagram is shown where you have utility, circuit breaker, circuit breaker. This is distributed generation connected to the utility with the help of this transformer, delta star, neutral ground connected. Here also you will see this. And there are the reason or there is the importance of this earthing connection that we will see in the next slides. Now, this unintentional island may occur as a result of following condition. First, a fault that is detected by the utility and which results in opening a disconnecting device but which is not detected by a PV inverter or protection device. What is meaning is there is the opening of a circuit breaker somewhere here and this distributed generation is not aware of opening of the circuit breaker. Okay, a fault that is detected by the utility, that's why there is opening of a circuit breaker, but that opening of a circuit breaker is not detected by PV inverter or protection device of a distributed generation. Second, accidental opening of a normal utility supply by equipment failure. This is also causes a unintentional island. Utility switching of the distribution system and load. This also causes a unintentional island. Intentional disconnect for servicing either at a point of the utility or at the service entrance. This also causes unintentional island. Also, other reasons are human error or malicious mischief or an act of a nature. Now, this is shown here again unintentional island due to opening of the circuit breaker. Unintentional island is formed. Particular situation of upstream device this is opening, and the rest of your distribution system operating being excited is called unintentional island. I think with up to this point, we are clear about now what is the unintentional island. Next, we'll see what are the issues with unintentional island. The first issue is the personal safety because the power is fed from the distributed generation side even though the circuit breaker is open and if the utility persons are going for clearing or maintenance purpose or clearing some faults, then they think that there is no power and there is a risk to their life. Unintentional island can cause hazard for utility workers if they assume downed lines are not energized during distortions. Overvoltages. Transient overvoltages due to rapid loss of load are possible. If an adequate ground source is not present in the island, a ground fault can result in voltage that exceeds 173% on an unfaulted phase. Means if the transformers or neutrals are not grounded solidly, then what will happen? There will be 1.73 per unit times voltage on a healthy phases in case of fault, and there will be over voltages. Reconnection out of phase. This is related to automatic reclosers. This can result in a large transient torque applied to motor connected to island and distribution load and their mechanical systems. There may be a damage to shaft, blowers and pumps. This happens because due to automatic recloser actions, the distributed generation voltage is 180 degrees out of phase with grid voltage when reconnection takes place, recloser takes place, and this may damage these things. And there is a who is answerable for this, that will be a question in such situation. Next is the protection. An intentional island may not provide sufficient fault current to operate fuses or overcurrent relay protection devices inside island. We have seen electrical aspect of a different interconnections, and we have seen fault current capabilities because the protection is based on what the amount or magnitude of fault current. When it reaches some value, the protection takes place. When it changes the direction, protection takes place. Therefore, the protection issues are more with the distributed generation networks. Next is the power quality. Unintentional island area may not have a suitable power quality or load. Okay, these are the issues with unintentional islanding. Personal safety, we have seen just now how that they are unaware of the supply from the distributed generation and there is a chance to their safety. Next is over voltages. This also we have discussed. If the single line to ground fault takes place, there will be 1.73 times voltage on healthy phases, and this may cause a problem to the other load connected to the distributed network. Then the main or important point is automatic circuit reclosers. These are the circuit reclosers are a class of switchgears which is designed for use on overhead electricity distribution network to detect and interrupt momentary faults. Means the ACRs open and closes, and the temporary fault may get removed due to this, and this causes a very serious problem. This we will see now how the ACR phenomena or ACR causes a problem. Now consider fault near and before circuit breaker 1 year fault is shown here. Now there when a fault takes place, there are the complete circuit is divided in two parts. One is on this side, one is on this side. On this side you have a utility whose impedance is very low in a weak grid, and on this side you have distributed generation whose impedance is higher than this. Now what happens? The in such situation, the sorry, I think I reverse the thing. Grid is weak, ZS is large, and ZG is low, of course. And this feeds more current to the fault, and the contribution to fault current from grid decreases because after a fault, this feeds more current, and in normal situation, this current is more. Now, what happens in such situation when fault takes place? The circuit breaker here or the recloser tries to clear the fault, and how we calculate or how we'll go in detail for that situation. The fault took place, circuit breaker opened. Now a automatic recloser is trying to close the circuit breaker. Now we'll consider a duration of 5 seconds. System frequency was 50 Hz before fault or opening of a circuit breaker. Therefore, fault happened, recloser opened. Now when recloser is opened, total load is on a distributed generation. Now frequency of distributed generation shift to 49.9 due to increase of load on a distributed generation. And during these 5 seconds, what happens is the phase voltage on grid side and on DG side we will calculate. If we put the values of change in frequency and we will calculate the phase, what we will find that after 5 seconds, when recloser closes, two voltages out of 180-degree phase gets applied to the system. Means when circuit breaker closes, the two voltages, the voltage on this side is 180-degree out of phase on a voltage from this side, and two times voltage gets applied to the load. This is the phenomenon we have shown here, 2.2 times higher than 2. Now in such situation what happens? We have seen if DG is the synchronized machine type, the current that can flow in such a situation is as much higher than the normal DOL start, and you can have a severe effect that can damage the distributed source. For induction machines, where induced magnetic field is of one polarity and then voltage that is now being applied from the grid is 180-degree, is trying to create a magnetic field 180-degree out of phase means opposite polarity will cause arc and can crack and damage shaft. Two times voltage will appear. High voltage and currents which end up damaging the neighbor's electrical equipment. Now for above situation, who is liable? This is the question. Okay, and we'll try to see the answer for this question is given by the different standards. That also we'll see the where the standards comes in picture to avoid the situation, what should be done. Now how to deal with this? So the issue of how to deal with unintentional island is the important concern. This problem can be handled by anti-islanding protection where the different standards comes in picture. Okay. Now what are the different standards? The different standards are IEEE 1547, IEC 62116 and UL 1741. Okay, different countries adopt different standard. IEEE 1547, the requirement according to this is that after an unintentional islanding, if unintentional islanding takes place, where the distributed resources continues to energize a portion of the power system through the PCC, point of common coupling, the DR shall detect the islanding and keys to energize the area within 2 seconds. What the IEEE 1547 says that in case of unintentional island, the distributed resource must keys to energize the area within 2 seconds. Means within 2 seconds it must stop supplying the load in the distribution system. This is as per IEEE 1547. ISC 62116 says that The PV inverter need to disconnect from the grid in case of abnormal grid condition in terms of voltage and frequency within 2 seconds. In previous case also, this 2 seconds was there, in this case also 2 seconds was there. Therefore, what is the importance of this 2 seconds? So if you look at standards such as IEEE 1547, it says that distributed generation should be disconnected before 2 seconds after opening of a upstream device, because after opening of a upstream device, island take place. The reason is that before the upstream device recloses, you need to be able to detect that something upstream has opened and de-energizes the DG. So you do not have a possibility of out of phase reclosing. We have seen how the voltages are 180 degree. This can be avoided because before reclosing of a auto recloser, you should get disconnected from the grid. Now, this is situation, the same thing is shown. This is the grid PCC, and you are always supposed to observe this. This is utility, this is the grid interconnection, this is the distribution line load, this is the distributed generation. Now, this device must immediately disconnect from this when this circuit breaker opens immediately within 2 seconds. That is the required thing. What are the other issues with islanding? Blinding of protection, protection under reach, false tripping, relay coordination. These are also the issues. This I think will skip because we have to see the other things also. The time will not permit for this. You may go through this. I have given the detail about this. This is the first blinding of protection. You know what is blinding protection thing and how it takes place due to the anti-islanding, that you will understand easily. Next is the protection under reach. This issue is also there. Third is false stripping also takes place due to anti-islanding. And relay coordination issues also take place due to anti-islanding. These are the other protection issues. You may go through this. Now, what are the warning signs of this islanding? Like, what are the warning signs of, or for corona also, you say that the temperature and puff like this. Similarly, voltage amplitude and frequency variation. Voltage amplitude variation and frequency variation of the grid voltage are usually the first signs of island condition, and these are also used for detecting the islanding situation. Now we'll see some basics behind this, why the voltage variations are there, why the frequency variations are there. Now, this is the general case where you have a conventional power generation, not a distributed generation, and how the situations are controlled in case of general power system. The real power demand and increase or decrease in real power demand is controlled by increasing or decreasing the fuel input to the generator, and reactive power demand is controlled by controlling the field current. Means in case of general power system, general conventional generators, either you change the fuel to the system for real power control, or you change the excitation to change the reactive power control. In case of distributed generation, what happens? We'll see, or a distributed generation inverter, we'll see. If the grid frequency decreases, what this inverter will do? It will increase the active power. And with the grid voltage decreases, it will also increase the active power. Means whether there is a decrease in the grid voltage or a decrease in the grid frequency, the active power from the generator will, inverter will increase. And whether there is an increase in the voltage or increase in the frequency, the inverter will decrease its active power. Means how the DG inverter is controlling or trying to control the change in frequency and voltage by changing the active power of a inverter. Now we'll go in detail about these things, how the situation takes place. And for this we will have to study the power balance situation or power balance equation. Here you have a grid, here you have a PV inverter, here you have load connected to the distributed generation, here you have a breaker. Okay. Now this distributed generation is supplying the power. We call it as a PDG and JQDG. Okay. This is the power consumed by load. This is power supplied by the utility. Now there are different situations. There will be no power from the grid if this load is sufficiently supplied by this. This is one situation. Second situation, if the load demand is more, there will be power from the distributed generation as well as from the utility. This is second situation. The third situation is what? The generation is more and load demand is less than this. Then in this case, this will feed the power to the utility. Means this delta P plus delta J key value may be 0, maybe in this direction or maybe in this direction. And the load balance equation is given by this. Okay. This is the power balance equation, and we will see how this decides the different things in a distributed generated power system. We have said in the starting also the bidirectional power flow. This is the cause. Now, what are the conditions for safe detection of islanding? Is delta P dash, delta Q dash. During a fault, the circuit breakers automatically opens and the system gets isolated. When fault takes place on utility side, the circuit breaker opens. And when the circuit breaker opens, obviously there will be no this delta P plus delta JQ, these values will be 0. Under this condition, delta P and delta QQ both tend to 0. Now, the important things are here. Now, the present state of the islanded system means after opening of a circuit breaker depends on the value of delta P and delta Q just before the utility grid has been disconnected from the island. And these values are denoted by delta P dash and delta Q dash. Means so, these values are the values of power from or through grid before opening of a circuit breaker. After opening of a circuit breaker, this value will be 0. Depending on the nature of delta P dash and delta Q dash, the corresponding relay will become operational to protect the system. And depending on this value, the relay will operate. Let t is equal to 0 plus be the time at which the circuit breaker has been opened. Then the following 4 cases of safe detection of islanding and isolation of system is explained in a table on the next slide. Here you can see if delta P dash is greater than 0. What is meaning is delta P dash is greater than 0. Means this power before switching is greater than 0. Means the utility was supplying power, utilizing real power to this side. And when the circuit breaker opens, there will be deficiency of this. That's why there will be decrease in voltage at a point of common coupling. That is detected by the under voltage relay, because the voltage will decrease and under voltage relay will detect the opening of the circuit breaker. Next, if delta P dash is less than 0, means this was going in this direction, Therefore, what will happen? Increase in VPCC is detected by over voltage relay. There will be increase in the voltage because now this part has reduced. Next, delta Q is greater than 0 means the reactive power was fed to the grid. What will happen? When the circuit breaker opens, previously it was feeding the reactive power. Now there is no reactive power feeding. Therefore, the frequency will increase. That can be detected by over frequency relay. And if delta Q is less than 0, in this case, when the circuit breaker opens, then there will be decrease in a frequency detected by under frequency relay. Means by under voltage, over voltage and over frequency and under frequency relay, we can detect islanding situation. But what is remaining is if delta P is equal to 0 and delta Q is equal to 0, then what will happen? That we haven't seen. That we will try to understand. And that is the worst case. The worst case for islanding detection is the delta P is equal to 0 and delta Q is equal to 0. And what is meaning is the grid was not taking power from the distributed generation or distributed generation was not feeding power to the grid. In this case, the power generation and load demand is exactly matched. And even though whether circuit breaker is opened or closed, there will be no change in delta P and delta P dash, delta Q and delta Q dash. And your over voltage, under voltage, over frequency, under frequency relay will be of no use because they are unaware of what happened upstream. Also, in resonance condition, what happens if the resonance frequency of RLC load is the same as the grid line frequency, the linear load does not absorb or consume reactive power. This is the situation. Now, the standards also define what are the frequency limits and these voltage limits. Here, it is shown that for over voltage, under voltage frequency and over current, under current, sorry, over under voltage, over voltage relays and over frequency, under frequency relays. These are the conditions for frequency between 49 to 51. This is what under frequency, this is over frequency. For voltage 0.9, this is the below this is the under voltage, above this is the over voltage. Now we have set these values for UV, OV, UF, OF protection, but still there is a problem. And we call it as a non-detecting zone, NDJ, non-detection zone. Here what happens that for the delta P and delta Q values inside this region, you cannot detect the opening of a circuit breaker of a utility, and you will be unaware of what happened, and there is a chance of unintentional islanding. The reliability of islanding detection methods can be represented by the non-detection zone defined in the power mismatch space. This is power mismatch space at the point of PCC where islanding is not detectable. Because the delta P and delta Q values if are in this range. What we are defining over frequency, under frequency just 49, 51, over voltage 0.9. Now in this range, if there is a power either fed to the utility or taken from the utility, is very less delta P value, and you will not be able to detect the and opening of a circuit breaker, and it is not a good situation. That's why the NDZ situation is here again shown here. This is a 49 hertz, this is a 51 hertz, this is a zero point 0.9 pu, this is a 1.1 per unit voltage. And if the things are within this region and circuit breaker opens, then there will be non-detection zone and your protection will fail. What is meaning is Over voltage, under voltage, and over frequency, under frequency protection is not sufficient. Due to what? Due to, of course, non-detection zone. The standard voltage and frequency protective device alone are insufficient for anti-islanding protection, and thus they must be combined with other islanding detection methods as explained in hereafter. What are that methods? There are two types of method. One is local techniques, second is remote techniques. In local techniques, you have active techniques, passive techniques, or hybrid techniques. In remote techniques also there are different techniques. And this we'll see that what are that. The local techniques are for small distributed generation up to 10 kilowatt. Now we'll see what are the local passive islanding detection methods. These methods we are supposed to add in addition to the voltage frequency detection. The first is OUV and OUF and OUV detection. We have seen this as per standard 15447. This is the range, frequency range 59.3 to 60.5. Disconnection time 0.16. IEEE reduces the time from 2 seconds to this. And IEC disconnection time is 0.2 seconds. Okay. Uh, this is the frequency range. Now passive islanding detection method. Passive islanding, in this case, there is a phase jump detection. This method observes the phase difference between the inverter terminal voltage and its output current, which typically occurs during islanding due to reactive power mismatch. When the reactive power mismatch takes place, of course we know this, when the reactive power is related to phase angle, and due to reactive power mismatch, this phase angle changes, which can be detected, and islanding can be detected, of course. With this, the phase can change much faster than the frequency, so much faster island detection is theoretically possible. Implemented using the zero cross detection or synchronizing method. Zero cross detection synchronizing method. Now passive islanding detection method. This is a harmonic detection method. As the grid impedance is usually low, we have seen this also previously, voltage harmonics are quite low and difficult to detect. But in the islanding mode, the grid impedance is now replaced by the load impedance, which can also be much higher with respect to the grid impedance. Means there is a change in the impedance scenario before and after islanding. So the harmonic level in the voltage will increase significantly and can be used as an indicator for islanding detection. This is one of the few passive methods that can theoretically reduce the NDZ to zero because it does not depend on the power mismatch. Means we are just observing the harmonic level and we are detecting the anti-islanding phenomena. Now what are the shortcomings of this harmonic detection? Connection disconnection of nonlinear load may change the harmonic condition and can be interpreted as an event of islanding. This is the first thing. No load transformer, which are known for generating high amount of third harmonic, they may also mislead the protection. Some DC inverters may increase the voltage background distortion in an effort to inject clean current. This is also may cause the problem for harmonic detection. Next is comparison among passive anti-islanding method. Now this over under voltage, over under frequency, and the phase jump detection method have a non-detection zone shown like this. For these two, for over and under voltage, the non-detective zone is very higher. And for this over under voltage frequency, this is plus to minus 5, and for phase jump also this is there. But for harmonic method, the non-detecting zone is absent. Okay, and trip time can be less than 200 milliseconds. This is the important for harmonic detection method. Now, what are these passive islanding methods we have seen? Now we'll see the active islanding detection method. The central concept of active method relies on a generation of small perturbation at the output of a PV inverter. Generally, small changes in one of the power system parameter. Either means what we do, we give a small perturbations either in frequency, phase harmonics, or power, or a reactive power. Now, what happens due to this small perturbation? The frequency dips enough to activate OUF protection in due course when the anti-island or islanding takes place, or the voltage drifts enough to activate OUV protection in due course, or grid impedance estimation and thus indirectly to detect the islanding, or other methods are the PLL based estimation is also there, or a negative sequence detection is also there. These are the cases with active islanding detection method. This perturbation given to the power system parameter goes on magnifying after the anti-aliasing situation. Now we will see this method one by one. Active frequency drift. The output current waveform is slightly distorted, presenting a zero current segment for a drift up operation. Means the perturbation causes the drift up, and there is a continuous trend to change the frequency, but the grid presence will prevent this. Means this change in the grid frequency is opposed or controlled by the grid, but in case of grid absence, this will drift more. Or in an island, the frequency will be drifted away and eventually dripping off over under frequency protection. Other active frequency drift methods are sleep mode frequency shift, Sandia frequency shift, active frequency drift with pulsating chopping factor, GE frequency shift, reactive power variation. These are there. Next is the voltage drift method. This is again active method. This method targets the grid voltage drift either by positive feedback of current or by varying the reactive power. Now, as long as the grid is present, the voltage cannot be drifted. But when the grid is disconnected, the disturbance will be able to drift the voltage until it hits over under voltage protection. And the example is Sandia voltage drift. This is the second method of active islanding detection. Third is harmonic injection. This method injects a current harmonic at a specific frequency intentionally into point of common coupling via the PV inverter. With grid disconnection, the harmonic current can flow into the load. Then load produces the harmonic voltage that can be detected. The harmonic current, when passes through the load, the harmonic voltage will be generated, and that can be detected for anti-aliasing situation. Now, what are the shortcomings of these active anti-aliasing detection techniques are? These are more efficient than passive method, of course, but they reduce the power quality due to constant injection of signal because we are giving the perturbation. And they generate instability in the grid, especially if more inverters are connected in parallel. If penetration is more, this will cause instability to the grid. Now we'll see the remote techniques. In remote techniques, what we call is a grid residence techniques. Now here, this is grid, this is the distributed generation, this is the load. This is the transmitter and this is the receiver. This is the transformer, this is point of common coupling. Now these techniques are based on the communication between grid and PV inverter, like a PLCC or a SCADA. The transmitter T is installed near the line protection switch and the receiver RE positioned in the PCC and proximity of the inverter. When the PV inverter cannot hear the signal from this transmitter anymore and landing is detected and it will get disconnected. Second is these methods, These methods are independent from power flows and it does not present a non-detection zone, but are also more reliable but expensive due to implementation of monitoring devices and high cost of transmitter and receiver. These methods are not yet commercialized. Now, what is the next method of a remote grid incident detection? You have again distributed generation on this side, grid on this side. Now when the circuit breaker opens, what will happen? It will get automatically disconnected to this capacitor band. And this connection of a circuit breaker to capacitor bank brings this capacitor in parallel with the distributed generation. And that causes a large enough voltage change to trip the over and under voltage protection on this side, because switching of a capacitor causes a high voltage on this side. Low response time and the bank of capacitor can be used also for reactive compensation. This can be also used as a reactive compensation, but it is expensive to implement. Now we'll see about the standards. The most relevant international bodies that are developing worldwide standards for grid requirement are IEEE, IEC, DKE, DIN. These are the standards. Island-related international regulation standards are in India IS 16169 same as IEC 62116, IEEE 1547. This replaces the standards. US standard, Japanese standard, Korean standard. These are the different standards related to islanding. Now this is a test setup for testing the inverter according to IEC 62116. In a laboratory, you must have a DC power supply, PV array simulator or a PV array. Now this is the inverter under test. This is the waveform recorder. This is the load. And this is the AC power supply which stimulates the grid or local distribution system. This is the distributed generation. This is the AC power supply. We are simulating the grid here. Now the circuit breaker should get open when the different situation takes place here. Now what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to change the variation, supposed to change the load or opening these different voltages, and the testing procedure of this island inclination measure is given in these standards. Now, whether anti-islanding is important. There has been argument that because the probability of islanding is extremely low, it may be a non-issue in practice. However, there are counter-arguments also. Firstly, the low probability of islanding is based on assumption of 100% power matching between the DG and islanded load. In fact, an island can be easily formed even without 100% power matching. The power mismatch could be up to 30% if only traditional protections are used, e.g. under over voltage frequency. The 30% power mismatch condition will drastically increase the islanding probability. We have seen this in detail previously. Second, the low probability argument is based on the study of photovoltaic DG applications. The PV DGs are mostly single phase and have a very low penetration. Means not for a PV but for other type of distributed generation, connected distribution network, anti-islanding is important. Therefore, anti-islanding detection is an essential and difficult task. The importance of islanding detection is highlighted by the fact that many international technical associations such as IEEE or IEC revise and modify the DG interconnection and islanding codes every 2 or 3 years. And as DG integration increases, the need for unintentional islanding detection will be more significant and more challenging. In conclusion, anti-islanding is a major concern to utility based on a recent survey. The top list of concern include anti-islanding, voltage regulation, protection coordination, power quality. Therefore, islanding is an issue that must be addressed. Also, standards are absolutely necessary to define clear rules. It is desirable to have globally accepted standards to reduce cost. Thank you. I will thank the principal of Government College of Engineering, Nagpur, then convener Dr. M.D. Gaugave sir, coordinator Neha, and other organizing committee. I will also like to thank Dr. Kavita Thakur madam, who helped me a lot in preparing this presentation through a protection point of view because she is from a protection field. Okay, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.